All right, thank you guys for joining us this evening. We are going to begin with some interviews for our budget committee, seats 3 and 5. And I believe we're starting with Tina Brannon. Hi there, welcome.
Very official.
I know, we are very official. Go ahead and get comfortable.
Hi, I'm Tina.
Thanks for joining us this evening.
Sure.
So in the spirit of time, we will get started with interviewing you. We have about 5 questions for you.
Okay.
And then if there's any time left, if you have any questions for us, you are welcome to ask us as well.
Okay.
The first question, why would you like to serve on the budget committee?
Well, I had a friend who was aware of the situation and they suggested that I submit an application just based on my background. So that was the first thing. And I think in addition to that, I could be an asset to the existing team that's already in place for this, just based on my background.
Tell us about your familiarity with the budget process for school districts, particularly due to the Sherwood School District.
Sure. So I don't have a lot of familiarity with the process in and of itself, but I did listen to the last board meeting and I heard what Gary had to say about the current circumstances. So I understand it from that point of view. I've done a little bit of reading. But I guess in a sense, I'm a financial advisor. I own a financial advisory business. So I guess in a sense, budgeting in general is something that I do every day with my clients. So in a general sense, not in a specific school district sense, I do have quite a lot of background in budgeting.
Tina, given your understanding of the current budget deficit situation, please share your thoughts on what the district's financial priorities should be as we work to address the deficit.
Well, I listened to the board meeting and my understanding of what happened has to do with student enrollment, differences in the student enrollment in the projections versus what we actually had. So assuming that's accurate and that cumulative effect has led to about $4 million less than what we thought we had to work with. And then the goal for the 2022 and 2023 year is to reduce expenses by 2.2 million. So that's my understanding of the current situation. And what to do to resolve it? Well, this is not my area of expertise, so I'll be very clear about that. But in general, obviously balancing it and getting us to where we're a net zero by the end of the year, obviously. And I'm sure Gary's been working very hard, during the last board meeting to look for solutions. But in my business, my staff and the customers that I serve are kind of the big rocks that I build around. So obviously that would be a priority. Second, to get a clear understanding of what led to this issue in the first place. I think that's obviously very important. And figure out what can be done to avoid that from happening again. And outside of that, what Gary said in the last meeting is that the historic processes have been excellent. So that you guys have won awards for doing a great job with the budgeting process in the past. So it's just a matter of what was missed with revenue projection.
Do you have any questions that we can answer about the school district or budget process?
I did have one question. So obviously, I'm sure a lot has been done, and I've heard a couple of rumblings in the community about cuts that have already taken place since the last meeting. Where does that put us as far as the goal to have a $1 million general fund balance by the end of the school year? How much progress has been made toward that goal?
Hi, Tina. Good to see you. So the goal was with $2.2 million, that was the number we thought we needed to end with $1 million in ending fund balance. So we'll put those reductions into place and we'll track them carefully and see how that plays out. But that was the number we were targeting, to reduce that much to put us at $1 million ending fund balance.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So basically the reductions will take place coming up. We'll present them tonight at the board meeting.
Okay.
And then they'll take effect in the next couple of weeks, depending on which reduction it is, or some already have taken place. And the cumulative effect of those should, in the end of the year, bring us to about $1 million in ending fund balance.
Okay. So there's already a complete proposal in place then, and then, so, and just to be sure I understand, so to lead off on that, so this budget committee, so I'm a little bit new to this entire process, so the intent of the committee and its purpose is really to help steer and give suggestions and feedback for the future. Is that accurate? Not necessarily to resolve the current situation. That would be more Gary's. Is that correct? Okay, okay, great, okay.
Is there anything else you would like us to know?
Out of, due to full disclosure, I guess I would like to say that I do have a daughter who works in the school district. So she's the new music teacher at Archer Glen this year. So just so you're aware of that in case that may be a conflict. So. And also I have no intent to pursue political office. So this is it. I'm here just to help because I have a fresh perspective and I'm definitely a numbers person. My head works like a spreadsheet. I'm very good at problem solving. I'm a smart person and I just would like to help. That's all. So I'm just throwing my hat in the ring as another resource of somebody with a good brain that might be able to, you know, lend a little perspective to the problem. That's all.
Very good. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure meeting you this evening. We will be voting on this later on in our meeting tonight, and we will let you guys know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Good luck. Thanks, Gary.
Hi there.
Hello,
Thanks for joining us.
thank you.
Well, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yes, I am Derek Thomas. I'm a resident here in Sherwood. I live off of Edie Road in Eastview. I've been here since 2015 and work predominantly out of my house for Hewlett Packard Enterprise.
Very cool. Thank you. We'll get going here with your interview questions. Why would you like to serve on the budget committee?
I have been an active resident in Sherwood and have 3 kids, obviously, and have watched the community grow. And I'm currently watching a lot of the development activities going on around the area as well. And so with that, I'm very interested in continuing to kind of play a more active role in Sherwood, especially since my job has transitioned a lot from the travel it was to more of kind of a work from home process. And as a result, I'm able to give a lot more back to the community as well. And obviously knowing where the district is at with the current situation that was presented the other night, I'm very interested in getting involved and helping.
Tell us about your familiarity with the budget process for school districts, particularly the Sherwood School District.
So my familiarity with the school budgeting process is little to none. Outside of obviously watching the budget meeting the other night, as far as how the school district maintains their budgets, I'm not familiar with. I do understand there's obviously different parts of the budget with regards to grants and general fund information and cost per student components that factor into all that, but I don't have an educational finance background, so I'm not certain how the school builds up their budgets, but I don't believe it would take me long to understand that going over it with someone appropriately.
Thank you so much. So my question is, given your understanding of our current budget deficit situation, please share your thoughts on what the district's financial priorities should be as we work to address that deficit.
So unfortunately, as I heard, obviously in the school board meeting the other night, it is a unfortunate situation. And it's one that I think was called out very well and obviously addressed very well. Obviously, there's a lot of components to a budget situation. How that went, kind of I noticed previously, is difficult. And in the area to understand, in the area that I spend a lot of time in, especially in corporate finance, and we talk a lot about controls really around monitoring and governance. And I believe that those processes were in place, but understanding them and kind of relying on them a bit more and really kind of digging into them maybe is where the additional effort can improve. And I think having some additional finance expertise as part of that process will help do that. I think it was a case of, when you look at how that was built up over quite a long time, it's interesting it wasn't identified earlier. But again, there's a lot of moving parts to it. The pandemic clearly played a big role with regards to student enrollment and the funds received per student. But understanding how that was identified earlier, or how that could have been identified earlier, excuse me, it is really a matter of digging into some more of what we call monitoring controls around the finance process. And I don't think under maybe the prior oversight process that was completely in place.
Thank you. Do you have any questions that we can answer about the school district or the budget process?
So I guess really, I'm familiar with the school district, and my wife actually works as part of the school district as well in the transportation office. But my understanding of the school district is still relatively limited from a standpoint of what you are looking for in filling these vacant positions. I understand that they were previously held, so it's not new positions as a result of the situation. They're positions that are backfill. Can you tell me what specific qualities you're looking for in a candidate that fills the role?
Yeah, so I've served on the board for a while. I find that budget committee members that come with curiosity and interest in learning about school finance, because it's completely different
Right.
than kind of any other kind of governmental function, the way that schools are financed and happen in Oregon. Come asking great questions and really dig into kind of what the decisions are, asking good questions about long-term financial planning and controls. All of those things are really helpful. The budget committee doesn't make, programmatic budget decisions or decide on staffing levels. That's not its role. Frankly, that's, that is something that our administrative function handles, but it is an opportunity for, I think, other eyes besides just ours to really have a chance to look and ask good questions and make sure that we're kind of thinking about and bring to us what you know about what's happening in the community, what the community priorities are, and a sense for, are we growing? Are we not? What are you seeing? What are you hearing? All of those are really important.
That's helpful. Thank you. I will say your response there just reminded me one of my earlier jobs with Deloitte. I spent 12 years consulting with Deloitte in risk and control capacity, but one of my earlier clients was the Anchorage School District. And we did it was one of my first projects. We did a small kind of budget funding project long before I really even understood governmental versus company accounting aspects. So your response kind of made me think about that as well.
Is there anything else you'd like us to know?
Yes, I think just from a standpoint of my own background, I mean, obviously I'm here before you with an interest to serve as a qualified individual and someone who is committed to helping the board, you guys close this gap, understand, how to continue to move forward, which I know I'm confident that the board will figure out anyway, but I believe my skills are very applicable to that and I'm passionate about it. I've got great experience in industry and bring forward creative thoughts and ideas on how to continue to address these things, and look forward to being a part. I would look forward to being a part of the process and being a part of this committee.
Very good. It was very nice to hear from you. Thank you for joining us this evening. We will be voting later tonight, and then we will make sure to let you all know.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Hi there, welcome.
Hi.
Would you like to take a second to introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name's Todd Slater. Current resident of Sherwood.
Great. Well, we will go ahead and get started with your interview questions. First off, why would you like to serve on the budget committee?
Well, I saw the email come out and it kind of piqued my interest to see what it was about. My family's always been kind of involved with the community, so I figured this might be my shot to do something.
Tell us a little bit about your familiarity with the budget process for the school district or for school districts in general, but particularly the Sherwood School District.
Really, I don't have much experience specifically with school district budgeting. Currently, I'm working as a third-party cost consultant, and a lot of the work that we do is in school construction work. So I thought that would kind of overlap and have some experience in that at least. Working with that, I mean, I'm working with construction budgets, and I think that should help me along those lines.
Given your understanding of our current budget deficit situation, can you please share your thoughts on what the district's financial priorities should be as we work to address that deficit?
Yeah, I mean, I think the initial rumors that I heard was that we're going to take school days away from the kids, and I think that's probably a bad idea. I think kids need to be in school as much as we can keep them in there.
Do you have any questions that we can answer about the school district or the budget process?
Yeah, if somebody gave me a quick one through on what exactly my role would be.
Yeah, I'm the long tooth, I suppose. Yeah. So yeah, the way that the budget committee works, they work alongside. So there are 5 community appointed members alongside the 5 school board members that sit as the full budget committee. Our job is to take information that we receive from the district regarding kind of where we're at financially, what projected revenue is going to look like. We get information about what things like, you know, what contractually we're obligated to relative to cost increases year over year. So we negotiate with our association. So next year, our costs for health insurance are going to go up by X,
Right.
and our costs for PERS are going to go up by Y because that's what the state sets. And then we take a good hard look at what the legislature is proposing for funding. Because the bulk of our money either equalized through property taxes or directly given to us by the legislature, that state school fund grant is, you know, kind of the whole ballgame for us. And we build some federal funds in around that, but the bulk of it comes from the state. So what we're looking at that point in time is then how much are we going to grow? or decline, because our funding comes in on a per student basis.
Right.
We try and kind of put together what we think our reasonable revenue picture is, and then how do we adjust, our program to fit the revenue and build a reserve. So part of the challenge with, the deficit we'll address this evening as we talk about, the decisions we'll make for this school year. But that will leave us with a $1 million ending fund balance, if all goes well and revenues come in as we expect. However, we're gonna have to continue to grow that to meet our target. So we also respond and ask questions and provide our perspective on what the district bring forward as proposed reductions or a spending plan for the 2023 school year. So that'll all begin, I believe, relatively shortly, as those are going to be some challenging decisions ahead of us.
Okay.
I hope that made sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's just it.
Is there anything else you would like us to know?
No, I think that's about all I kind of expected. It was along those lines.
Great.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us this evening. Take care.
Madam Chair, we are ahead of schedule and our next candidate has not arrived yet, so I would recommend we take a brief recess.
All right, we will recess for a few minutes. Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we will resume interviews. We got a little ahead of ourselves. And
I
so
know, I'm
we
glad.
took a short little break. Yeah. Welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself to get started?
Yep, I'm Kim Young. I'm a resident here in Sherwood. I've lived here for 8 years, but been involved in the district for 17 with my kids here.
Thank you. Why would you like to serve on the budget committee?
Well, I just always have been in service. I've served as long as I can remember, where I'd be in church, the kids' schools. I was on the charter school board. I was on the charter school PAC. I'm on city council. I'm on their budget committee. So I just, service is just kind of what we do. And I think I could be a good asset.
Tell us about your familiarity with the budget process for school districts, particularly the Sherwood School District.
Well, I think what I know about the budget process is that the budget committee, which is made of citizens and the board, reviews the proposed budget from the superintendent. And they have opportunity, the staff usually does a presentation. They have opportunity to ask questions. It's a public process, so an important part is having the public be able to weigh in if they choose to. A lot of people don't find it's very fun to come to budget committee meetings, but it is an open process. So I think that's very important that the budget, or that the community have time to weigh in if they choose to. And then they refer it to the school board for hopeful approval. What I also know that's very important is that the budget committee is sort of looks at the budget at a high level and not get down in the weeds as far as FTEs, programs, salaries, things like that. And then it should hopefully align with goals of the district and if there's a strategic plan.
Thank you. Given your understanding of our current budget deficit situation, can you talk to us with what you think our financial priorities ought to be as we work to resolve that deficit?
That's tough. I wish we could just find $4 million and infuse it into the district.
I agree with that. answer
Yeah,
right there. That'd be
I
nice.
mean, you dream it that at night, right? Somebody's gonna win the lottery and we're gonna just donate to the school district. But in reality, that's not the case. It's unfortunate that the district's in this position, but I think priority should come to whatever is least impactful on the students and their learning. Reality is probably any cuts are gonna have some impact, whether felt or not felt, could be unseen circumstances. So the least amount of teacher cuts. But I think no matter what decisions are made or what cuts are having to make, it'll be felt by the teachers and the staff, because that could be less professional development. It could be furlough days, which is a financial impact to staff and teachers. So I think, and I hate to say this because there's district folks sitting here, but at the district office could be one place to look for cuts that don't impact directly to the classrooms with the teachers and the students. I know reality that teachers, there's going to be cuts, but again, I think priority is to whatever's least impactful to the students.
Do you have any questions that we can answer about the school district or budget process?
I have a question that I don't necessarily expect an answer. It could be something to think about, but I did notice in my reviewing of budget committee meetings that it seems like the budget committee only meets right at the proposed budget time, whether that's for 1 or 2 meetings, but they don't meet like for a mid-year to do a check-in of mid-year versus actuals. And maybe that's because the board handles it at that level, but that's the only question I have.
So we actually, we have in the past, so usually there's a meeting around January, February timeframe to do kind of a what was the last year's budget? What are we hearing from, especially in legislative years? What are we expecting to happen in the legislature and how is that likely? What's the proposed budget and what would that do versus if we're looking at an increase of some kind and what are PERS rates doing, those kinds of, that conversation usually happens in that time frame. And then the budget committee, we meet again, I want to say in the kind of early April timeframe, if there's been any adjustment. And then we schedule 3 budget committee meetings to do the kind of hard work of the budget. I think there was one year where the budget was so uncertain coming out of the legislature that we ended up having 2 because we weren't sure that the projection amount that we were using for what we expected the state school fund to have was right. We wanted to wait until after the May revenue forecast to do that so that we knew, is that number going to jump by 500 million or is it
Right.
going to hang out? Because if it's not going to move, that's a very different budget than if it is. And so that year we ended up meeting twice, but then usually by the time we get to that 3rd meeting, we also have historically done small groups that don't create a public meeting issue, but before we come in and take a look at the final budget recommendation, we kind of talk about, here are the puts and takes, and give an opportunity for folks to have a conversation or ask some questions so that when we get together for that final conversation, if there's information that the budget committee wants to know or has questions about, or if there's a common theme, there's an opportunity for us to present on that to the public to answer those questions too, and staff's ready for that.
Oh,
So
good.
that's kind of, so there's more engagement. It's still not at the kind of creation levels that you talked about, that higher level,
Mhm.
but historically, the plan, what we've historically done has been to kind of meet along the way. It doesn't always show up because usually the kind of formal meeting with the budget committee, those dates is usually just that once that shows up on the calendar, but that's not necessarily how that's actually happened over
Okay,
time.
yeah, I just have the historical of what's on the website, which was the last 3 years, I think. And so last year I saw when they did a budget training meeting and then one budget meeting and then no mid-year, kind of thing. So anyways, that was just
And
my
that-
question, but
And again, that's historically what we've done, and that we have as you know, a new CFO and a new superintendent. So what that's going to look like going forward may shift.
is there anything else you would like us to know? I don't think so. I work in the accounting world and I'm one of those geeks that love numbers and love to look at budgets and whatnot. And I think that I have some experience that could help, but I also realize that anybody's qualified to sit on the budget committee. If you're a citizen resident of Sherwood and have an interest in the schools. So,
Great. Thank you so much. We appreciate your time. And we'll be voting later this evening and we will let you know. Thanks. Take care. All right, and with that, we will take another recess and we will come back in session at 7 o'clock.